Hi, grab your painting smocks and your brushes. It's time to do another paint with me. Number one, don't keep your turntable flat on the table if you're taller, because then you're doing this. And A, it's gonna mess up your work. B, your back is gonna hurt. So if you need to, put your turntable on books or something like that. Or you can buy elevated turntables. I have one of those. It's a wooden turntable. Oh, let me get it. It's wooden. And then on top, this may not be what it was initially made for, but it's what I'm using it for. And since it has a base right here, when you set it down, put something that you're going to use a lot on the base. Extra paintbrushes, a magnifier, a pair of scissors to help you open a tube of paint, even double-sided tape. Now this is called mounting tape, but any tape will do, even clear tape. It doesn't have to be double-sided. Just happens to be what I have because my mom needs it to fix a mirror. But what you do is you wrap the tape around sticky side out of your fingers. And if you have pets like I do, you know dog hair flies. So sometimes dog hair will get on the statue. Tap the tape on the ceramic, and the dog hair, people hair, dust, whatever will stick to the tape. Whatever debris, packing peanuts, glitter or something, if you got kids and they like to play with that stuff, whatever. Because I realize you can't lock kids away from, especially when you're doing something fun. The other reason to have another turntable, because for me, when I'm painting on this, say the chair gets painted and I want to paint her wings next. Well, I won't do that with the chair wet, so I'll put her on the other turntable. And then I'll grab another piece so that I can be working on 2, sometimes 3 pieces at the same time. And while one part of one is drying, I've got another on the turntable. And a second turntable works great for when you're clear coating because you can spin it. So you're not touching the work. Because that clear coat does get on your hands and it's kind of like drying glue on your fingertips. So be careful with that. And use all the space you've got. So if your turntable has a base like that wooden one, put extra paintbrushes or whatever on the base so you're not having to do the barnyard reach and maybe knock over an open thing of paint or something. I always get the brushes that I'm going to use on a particular piece or I think I need. All my brushes are right here in a little Lazy Susan thing. Those work great. But I get the ones I think I'll need the most out before I start my project. And I lay them on the turntable, or I lay them right next to my turntable on the table itself, because my table is covered by you can use a shower curtain cut in half, a picnic tablecloth. Either one of those work. I use the shower curtain because you can double fold it, cut it down the center, and you've got 2 pieces. So I tape one down with painter's tape. Don't use anything but painter's tape, because if not, you're going to take the finish off the table. But, and painter's tape won't take your finish off your table. Tape it down, and then when it gets ripped, torn, messed up, paint all over it, when you pull it up, it's not on your table. And I use the dollar shower curtains from like Dollar Tree, the liners, because then I have a second piece already pre-measured, ready to go, and you put that down. That's so that I have another table. It's at my mom's. It literally is every color of paint that I own, because I didn't know this trick. My friend Sean came up with this trick and taught it to me. Now I'm teaching it to you, because that table, it's horrendous looking. I'm going to use it when I do a craft sale this summer. It's September 18th in St. Clair, Missouri. There's a craft sale. So I'm going to be part of it. And that table's getting covered by a tablecloth that will be taped down with painter's tape so that it looks nice. But I've been trying to get a few pieces done for the craft sale, so I need to be working on 2 or 3 at the same time. This method will let you do that. Okay. If you can hear the music, I don't own the rights. Any products, paintbrushes, paint, or anything that you see a label on, I'm not endorsing, reviewing, I'm just showing you what I use. You do you. Use what works for you. Ready to go? Me too. Let's paint. For the chair, now I have 2 colors of brown. Stop that. This is not the brown I wanted. But see, I have a whole bunch of colors laid out that I think I'll use on these projects that I'm working on right now. There it is. I got 2 different colors of brown. Nutmeg brown and coffee latte. I think we're going to go with coffee latte, but sometimes I will hold something up, just like this, before I paint it to see which one do I think will work better. And I don't want to go with deep, deep colors on this. I want it to be bright and happy. So we're going to go with coffee latte. Now, if I don't like coffee latte, because this is a new color to me. A friend of mine bought it for me. I painted some pieces for her, and in turn, she got me some paint and some clear coat, because I don't always charge for my work. This is not work for me. This is relaxation. This is fun. This is my time my me time to de-stress and have fun. I want to adopt kids, and even when I adopt kids, one of the things I always tell my nephews and nieces, any kids I'm around, other than don't should on yourself, don't say should, and don't say don't, because, or can't rather, not don't but can't. Say I don't know how to right now, because if they say can't, they're giving up on themselves. I give up on myself plenty in my life, and I won't allow anyone else to do it. All right, lecture over. Find something you like to do. Do you like to cook? Is it joy for you instead of drudgery? Or like going into the office? Some people, yeah. I've heard a lot of complaints lately that they didn't want to go back into the office, that they prefer to work from home. I can't say anything to that, but I think if you find something that you love, be it watching baseball, cooking a meal, painting ceramics, reading a book, putting on headphones and dancing around in your underwear, whatever. If you find something you love that's not work to you, then you won't have as much stress in your life. Give yourself some joy. This is my joy. And part of my joy is painting something and giving it away. Do I sell it sometimes, like the craft sale I'm getting ready for? Yeah. But I'm just starting to learn that my talent is valuable. That's hard for me. It's hard for me to charge for this stuff because I don't see as valuable. I don't see my talent as valuable as I should. And that's a failing on my part that I need to correct. Another thing, you see me reaching back behind the camera? That's because I got my orange juice. I've said this to you before, and I'll say it again. I see it all the time in our group. Do not put what you're drinking next to your painting. Make yourself have to reach for it. You don't have to put it where you have to get up. But don't put it directly near your cup that you're rinsing your brushes with. In fact, that cup should be over here. Actually, no, I like it better over there. See, even I don't know what I'm going to set things up with. Because you'll wind up dumping your paintbrush in your cup. Done it. Guilty. All right, now, we're not sure if we want to use this light one or this darker one. So what we're going to do is small patch. I'm going to choose the back here. And just do a really kind of a small, not too small, but do a little bit of it and see what, and I like that. I like that. So I think we'll go with that. Would I like the darker brown too? Yeah, I'm sure I would. In fact, let's put it side by side and see what, sometimes put your wipe rag on your lap, because that way you're not wiping your paintbrush on your pants or your shirt accidentally. Have one sitting next to you and one on your lap. Trust me, and get a painting smock that is not tight. Your husband's old shirt, your wife's, you know, if your husband wanting to do this, get one of your old work flannel shirts or one of your old shirts. Or if you have a husband, grab one of his bigger baggier shirts or buy one big. This was a friend of mine's. He wore a 4X. This thing is huge on me. I got butterfly wings with it, but it's perfect because then I don't get anything on my clothes, but at the same time, it's not confining, going to make me heat up because your painting smock can make you hot. Now let's just take under here and we'll do another little piece. See that? Now the two colors are side by side. You probably can't see that real well, but the two colors are side by side. And I still like the lighter color. But now that I've seen them side by side, one thing you can do, if you have two colors like this and you can't decide, what I'm going to do, we're going to take this lighter color and we're going to do this inside area. We'll take this darker color and we'll do the edges. That'll make it pop just a little more. And the two colors are close enough that we will be able to make it stand out without making it look gaudy. But like I said, you do you. If you want a purple chair with pink polka dots, do it. If you got a kid wanting to paint with you and they want to do the chair in the most god-awful orange you've ever saw, don't say no. Don't say, you know, you got to do it this way. You say, okay, let's see how it turns out. And then show them how to pick the right color so that when they get older, if they want to do it and pick a right color and sell it, that's fine. But especially when they're young, let their imagination fly. Don't box it in. God gave us an imagination for a reason. So what we're going to do, my dear friends, take the light. Now, you see I've got a lot of paint on this. Let me explain. Do you see the ridges? You see how this is not a smooth ceramic? They've got it looking like a rattan chair or a wicker chair because they raised these ridges. So you're going to need more paint. Normally, I would tell you not to put these globs on your paintbrush. But when you're trying to get in you want it to get right in the ridges. Right in the center, see? Now wipe away the excess and move down. What you're doing, and sometimes even after you paint an area, rub with the word grain isn't right, but rub with the direction of the lines. Because they're raised, there's going to be a valley. And you want paint in the valley too. So go over it with that excess paint and just flick, 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 just like the toes, remember? Flick, flick, flick. And you need to make sure you can get in there. Now, if you can't see very well, start using your ears. Hear me out. I'm legally blind. I'm not totally blind, but I'm legally blind. So I can't see things as well as you can, but I can hear. So what I do is I listen for that small sound that makes when the bristles are running over the edges. I can see the color, fine, but I can listen and hear the difference in a paintbrush that is dry going over the ridges and a paintbrush that is wet. They make two different sounds, whether you realize it or not. I've got background music playing. I do better with more than one thing at a time. You may not be that way, but turn the music off for a minute. And I'm not going to do that because the music is way on the other side of the apartment. And listen to the sound the brush makes on the ceramic. If you get distracted, you can teach yourself to hear the sound of the empty paintbrush. Because when you're a parent, or an aunt, a grandparent, whatever, you get distracted by the kids, the dogs, someone knocks on the door, someone scares the crap out of you, and everything goes, whee! Yeah, that happens a lot. I'm so happy I don't have carpet. You wouldn't believe how many times I've had to clean up paint from the floor. Like I said before, now this is another reason you see me handling my ceramics as much as I do, because I can't see and it's uncomfortable to lean over your ceramic. You want to put it at eye level, pick it up. You can brace your hand on a paint can or a book or something if you have weak hands or weak wrists and arms and you have trouble holding a weighted object. Brace it on something so that you can hold it without having a problem. And don't expect to do a ton. If you have those kind of problems, don't do a ton of painting all at once. Do a little bit at a time and then go away from it so your muscles can rest. If you've got muscle problems and you still want to do this, because I do it a lot for therapy, because this grip is painful. Just the pinch grip of holding the paintbrush can be very painful at times. So I do a little bit of painting and then I walk away, because you got to give your body time too. Listen to your body. If your body says, man, this is straining my eyes, quit for a while. This is supposed to be fun, not a torture session. But your brush will make a different sound when it's empty versus when it's full. Now, at first, when you're just getting the paint on there, you can go any old direction you like. I told you that before. You're just putting the paint on there. You're not worried about it, especially if you've got a big open space. Just kind of have fun and get the paint on there. I see I heard the scrape that told me the paintbrush was empty. Now, once you get all the paint on, you want to go back over and go in the direction of the lines. And see, every other square, the lines are going a different way. So flick, flick, flick in that direction so that you get all the paint in the grooves. This also works if you're wanting to put down a second different color on top. You saw me do that in another video. I used a fan brush to apply an antique copper over a brown. You do this kind of technique, you don't have to use a fan brush, you can use any brush, but you just lightly flick, flick, flick. Don't push down when you're adding your second coat. If you want the bottom coat to shine through, don't push on your brush, just very lightly. It's like a pastry brush. When you're brushing pastry, you don't push hard on the pastry brush, do you? You get the egg wash or whatever on the brush and then you drag it slowly and just let the weight of the brush apply the egg wash. Well, the painting is the same way. If you want both colors to shine through, feather-light strokes and don't push hard on the brush. If you know someone who has a kid who has like cerebral palsy, muscular dystrophy, they have partially paralyzed on one side, get them into some kind of activity where they've got to use both hands. If they're paralyzed on the left side, then make them use and teach them. You don't do everything just like I do, but you can still do everything I do. Let's find your way. And that comes directly from my mama. That's what she taught me. So see, you can't tell a lot because I just bumped you. I'm very sorry. But we've got all the little ridges, and that's our interior color. So let's see what, now I almost put my paintbrush in my orange juice, even with it back there. That's why I'm telling you to move your drink. Now, let's see what this darker color, and this is another reason you mark your lids. I've told you that before. You don't want your lids to get mixed up because your paint will get mixed up because they have paint on the inside of the lid. In fact, say I needed just a little bit of this dark brown. There's some in the lid, see? Just get a little bit out of the lid on the tip of your brush. If you don't need much paint, that's a wonderful way to get just a little bit of paint. And see, there's paint on it. But we want more paint than that. And I lost my other lid. Where did I put it? I'll find it later. Now, when your paint bottles are sitting side by side, move the one you're not at the moment working with when they're open. Because number one, you don't want to spill it. Number two, you don't want to grab the wrong color. So you only have the color you're currently working with accessible to you. Or if you want multiple colors accessible, use these little paint trays. And when this paint all dries on it, it will peel off. So you don't always have to run it under water or anything. Let me see if I can, yeah, just dig it up with your finger, and then once it dries, peels right off. That's why I have multiples of these. I don't always use them, but I let them dry and then I peel it off and blah, 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 we get a clean surface. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this color and move it because it's in my way. Now be careful because we got wet paint on we're gonna have wet paint on 2 areas, so it's gonna mix in a little bit. We'll fix that up in final painting. Don't worry about it. But when you're doing this, because we've got a small area and we got the lines, instead of a big area, we want to go with the lines so you get everything in the holes, because you got a really small area and you don't want to mix your wet paints. I mean, sometimes you do, but not in this instance. So we're going to go very soft flicks with the brush in the direction of this, because that's the direction of the lines. See? And then we're going to just be very careful, paint with the lines in the smaller area, because we're doing a smaller area. We don't have the luxury of just getting the paint on and then worrying about it, where you can in a bigger area. So go with the lines. You still want a lighter touch here, because you don't want a gob of paint on there and then it falls off, because she's got some closed areas. Now what I mean by that close areas, I'm sorry, is that, see back here, we've got the chair back here, but we got her wings resting right back and her head's right there too. That's not a big area. So we're going to have to do soft, short strokes, small bristled brush in small areas, because you don't want your paintbrush to, like, I don't want brown on the wings. We're not doing brown wings, okay? And see, in there, I want the ridge, so I'm tipping her up where I can see. I'm holding her at an angle, and I'm just going lightly around with that. Now, there's an inside lip because it's a rolled over piece of like a regular wicker chair. So I'm just gonna put the tip of my bristles in that bottom area and drag it across. I'm gonna get some paint on the part we're gonna change the color with. That's okay, let it dry and then we'll paint over it. So we're gonna just flick, flick, flick and get that painted. And then, since we need to do the top ridge, not inside the ridge, you can go side to side. The only reason we didn't do that right like that is because we're wanting to get the paint inside the ridge. That's when you go with the texture, the raised area. That's why you go in the same direction, to get paint in your ridges. And then if you just want the top, then you can go sideways and just run it across the top. But you won't, both the top and in the ridges in anything you paint, because if you don't get paint in that ridges and you leave them this color and you want it to look like I hesitate to use the word professional, but that's what I can think of. You want it to look like a more professional piece or a well done piece, you make sure you get your ridges. So see, that's what we did. Now, right here, I have an idea. I think we're gonna use this color for this part of the post. So we're gonna leave that alone. I need a little more. Now see, that's why I moved the other open color. I almost dipped into it. That's why I'm saying this, because it's not just blowing smoke. I'm trying to teach you from the mistakes that I observed myself making. I learned all this on my own. I mean, I had some ideas from my art group. They would say, well, try this or try this. But none of them paint ceramics. So I learned everything I'm doing here on my own. You don't have to. That's what I'm here for. Now, see that? Now, you may not be able to see too big a difference right now of the two colors. That's fine. It needs to dry. So don't worry about it. We're gonna sit here and hold it. Sorry, my chair was rolling on me. Like I said, go in the ridges. See how soft I'm being? I'm not really pushing hard, but I'm making sure I get in the ridges. And this is another reason I say pick up your work. Or have it where if you don't want to pick up or you can't pick it up, have it at eye level. There's times when something is too big to pick up. So you want to put it, now if you're doing a great big piece like that Mary and that dog I did, you're going to have a little more difficulty because you can't pick up an 80-pound ceramic to paint it. You're going to have to go around it. You're going to have to sit on the floor. You're going to have to, you might be able to tip it a little so that you can look. Even if it's a big thing, if you tip it little, or take a flashlight or the light on your flashlight on your phone, or a little, one of those little flashlights, or even your big flashlight, and go around it and watch how the light plays on the ceramic. I'll teach you what I mean by that. When you're in light, there's a shadow cast. We all know that. I used to try to catch my shadow as a kid. Now, if I move my paintbrushes, see how the, whoa, you gotta move a little. Let's move you dudes. See how the light plays on her face and parts of it, like right here's in shadow, right here's in shadow, right there's in shadow. That's what I mean. So if sometimes, especially if you want to do a profile or you want something to look, have a shadow effect on it, you want to look like the sun is coming from a certain direction. Now this is for your canvas as well, especially if you're painting on canvas. Make sure that you think about when you're painting your work, where the light's coming from. When I'm drawing on canvas, I draw a little sunball, like in one of the two corners or at the center at the top. And that's where the light, that's to remind me. And then I draw in pencil, real light. I draw rays down from it so I can see how I can remind myself, this is the light, this is where I want the sun to set, this is how it's going to play on my work. So you have shadow and you have light. I hope that makes sense. Ceramics are the same way, except with ceramics, you've got edges, you've got corners. Now look, see how narrow that is? There we go. See how narrow that is right there? I'm gonna actually switch my brushes. That one's a little more narrow, but I don't think that will work. So I'm gonna look on my brush table, and I found something where's the camera? Like this. We're gonna use this to get in there so that we don't smear paint everywhere. If you don't have a brush with this little but you've got one of these that's old and the bristles maybe are falling out, or they've gone frizzy and look like little Fanny when she sticks her finger in a light socket, which is how I used to look when I was a kid, by the way. Take a pair of scissors. That's why, another reason I keep a pair of scissors just for my crafts. This is not used for anything else. And I trim it so that I have the size of a bristled brush I need, instead of paying $6 for a detail brush. Because sometimes you just don't have $6 for a detail brush. It's either $6 for a detail brush or $6 for Little Jimmy's lunch that week. Who's gonna win? Really? Now, you are gonna come back to this brush pretty quick. So you can just set it on your turntable without rinsing it. If you're not coming back to that brush, then you can immediately put it in your water. Don't let the paint dry on the bristles, or you might not be able to use that brush again if you can't get the paint out. That's why I put dish liquid in my rinse water. Wet the brush a little bit. Dry it off. I like to use a damp brush. I think the paint, it slides better, it works better with a damp brush. Now, I can't see very well, so I'm going to tip it again, so the light shows me exactly where I need to paint. And I'm going to go slow so that in a small area, I'm not going to be globbing paint where I don't want it. Now, you're going to be dipping your brush back in a lot more because, like if you're writing with a fountain pen or a quill, this doesn't hold a lot of ink. A friend of mine does calligraphy. This is not going to hold a lot of paint. That's okay. That lid was on that bottle of paint, thank goodness. Just easy does it. Really easy, really slow. We're not in a hurry. This is not a race. And see how I'm going down right there? That's because I want the top ridge in a tight area. And then I'll go back and go go straight across it to get in the ridge. But I want a tight area, so I'm using a small bristled brush. Some people use the brushes of nail polish. That makes a terrific detail brush. Just be sure to really clean it out, and you can do that with nail polish remover. Can also clean that particular brush to get the nail polish out of it, or Dawn, or just some kind of dish liquid. And those can make, if you've got no more paint in your nail polish, keep the brush for a detail brush. You can also buy makeup brushes and use them for paint brushes. I buy packs of makeup brushes, and some of them I use for makeup, which I don't wear very often. But if I'm going to a business meeting or something, I will put makeup on. And yes, I put my teeth in when I go out of the house. I hate those things. Apparently, my mom told me my grandpa, Wayne Lambert, who I never met, I take that back. I met him once, barely remembering. But he hated his teeth too, and wouldn't wear them unless he was going out. Well, I'm kind of the same way. So we're just going in the ridges with our small brush. Now, if you accidentally get paint where you don't want, don't flip on me. We'll fix it, don't worry. This is relaxed. This is fun. This is not spaz because I accidentally turned her dress brown when I wanted her dress to be fuchsia pink or whatever. You don't have to be a perfectionist here. If you want to be, that's fine. But this is supposed to be relaxing and fun. Now, I just looked in the camera and I noticed I didn't get the underside. I need more paint. Small bristles, gonna hold less paint. And now sometimes you want to go down that way. The threads are going this way. So sometimes you're going to go over that way to get the top, but sometimes you want to go from the bottom up like that. And sometimes you're going down like that. It doesn't matter which stroke you use. There's no set rule. Whatever works best for you, but some places are a little trickier to get paint on, just like when you're putting on makeup. Putting on makeup, it was explained to me by Over 50 and Fantabulous. Hi, Lynn, darling. I wanted to start doing makeup, and all the people in her chat live stream that day gave me some wonderful advice. And they knew I liked to paint, and they said, take and think of it. The makeup is, your face is the canvas for the makeup. I think that's partly why some people, women and men, like to wear makeup, because it's a canvas. Isn't our life a canvas? We choose how we want to make up our life, just like we choose what makeup we want to wear on our face. All life is canvas. It's just you choose how to paint it. And no, I didn't come up with that on my own. One of my friends, a couple of years ago for my birthday, gave me this little piece of canvas that had a stand for it. And it says, life is a canvas. You choose how to paint it. And I loved that. Now, you see how we did that? There's the back. We left that. Now look, at the top, there's a really tiny little rim of what we are painting that wants to be this. It's happy, like Bob Ross, Happy Little Trees. Well, this is a happy little rim. And it wants to be this light, this darker brown. So we're just going to carefully paint it, and then we'll do the interior of that, the interior color. Now let's do the ridge on the other side. Sorry about that. I got a paintbrush in my way. I like to do this careful work all at one time if I can. Sometimes you cannot. It's okay. That's cool. And if you flub up, your dog barks and your paintbrush goes flying, that's happened to me lots. Or your kid interrupts you and accidentally bumps your arm, or your cat's walking on your painting table. Don't stress it. Just take care of the situation and come back to your artwork. This is not a big deal, people. I've even had where I accidentally dropped ceramics and they broke while I was working on them. Does it upset me? Well, yeah. But am I going to let it ruin my fun? Nah. You just call in a friend who can I have friends who have steadier hands than I do. So when I need something glued back together, they come to my rescue. Kind of like the Long Ranger. There you go. See, we'll get all this painted, then we'll do the whole thing in the interior, and then we're going to set it aside and let it dry. Next time we come back, we'll do something else. The dress, the bird, we still have the wings and the hair. I want to show you how to do the lips, because sometimes with the lips, sometimes I'll think the pink is either the wrong color or it's too bright, or the red or whatever you use for your lips, and there's a way to tone that down after you've already painted the lips. If you don't want it to be so bright, there's a way to tone it down a little bit while the paint's already on the lips. So I'll show you what I do for that. And a good tip, one that I use and I've always used since I started doing this, is have someone else look over your work after it dries, before you seal it, really, but before you go to give it away or sell it, have another person come in and pick it up, turn it around, move it up, get a good look at it and see if they think something might have been missed. You need to do that even if you can see, especially if you're going to sell it. While if it's a hand-done work, people like a little bit of flaws because it proves it's hand-done, you still want to have pride in what you're doing. Pride is not a bad thing. It's how you let it control you that changes pride. But that's my opinion. But I have pride in being able to do this. And I'm just learning that my talent is valuable. I used to never sell this stuff. I used to give it away. You know how I paid my phone bill this month? I sold $130 worth of ceramics. So I could pay my $90 phone bill And it's only $90 because I had to get a new phone. My other one broke. My Samsung I used to have, I dropped it one too many times. And it was not a happy phone. Plus, it didn't have a lot of memory, so I couldn't do a lot of longer videos because it would shut down. And I wanted something I could do a little bit more with, so I went a personal choice. I'm not promoting this phone, but I went with an iPhone 12 with the bigger memory. You can get it with regular memory or bigger memory. And while I can't always personalize like the screensaver, I enjoy taking pictures and using my own pictures of my artwork or my friend's artwork for my screensaver because I can't always personalize the ringtone like I want or the screensaver. That's okay. I want the memory so I can talk to you guys. And there's that. Now, I just saw this. Tip it up and I'll move it closer. Do you see the white there? I didn't get it. That's what I mean about getting in the lines. Do you see right there where there's not paint in the lines? That's why we want paint in the ridges. We don't want it to look like that. And sometimes you need more than one coat. But a good plan is to let it dry before you do the second coat. But I'm showing you how to do the first coat and then I'll let it dry. And then I'll do the second coat off camera so that we can keep moving next video. Because you don't want to watch me repaint the same thing over and over again, do you? That'd be kind of boring, wouldn't it? Now, move. If you look right there, there's designs. See that? What we're going to do, since we want the paint underneath the design to be this color, we're going to paint over the design. It's raised, so it'll still be there. We can find it later. But this way, the underneath, this color will show through underneath. Then we will detail that after it dries. So go ahead and cover that up with this paint that you want the underneath color. Go ahead and cover it. Now this is another spot where you may have to have more paint on your brush because you're trying to get in all the dips, the valleys. Ceramics are not canvas, they are not a flat surface. So you've got to put a little more paint in some areas to get in all the little dips. And when you're doing that, a good tip is that flick technique will help you get in a small area sometimes that just a normal swipe of the brush won't get. So try the flick to get in the smaller areas. Now, this is on the bottom, but if someone wants to buy her and they pick her up or they have better eyesight than me, they'll still see it when she's sitting. So you want to cover that too, that space right there. Always think about that. What's it going to look like when it's sitting? Should I paint the bottom in case they tip her up and want, maybe they want the bottom? I like to do the bottom of the ceramics in a light gray most of the time, just give it a cohesive bit of look. Sometimes I'll choose a color from the ceramic like this brown and just do the bottom that color too to match the rest of the ceramic. Unless there's a signed, like a sticker that's been signed by the artist, that you want to leave alone. And sometimes I'll take clear tape which I have right, oh, my finger stuck to it. This stuff, clear tape, Scotch tape, I think, and cover that sticker with it. So you don't lose the sticker if it's signed by an artist or you want to keep where it was made or something like that. But see how this is, I had to do a little bit on the bottom to cover the toes, so I'll cover this area in a light gray so it looks more cohesive. Now look, I flubbed up. I wasn't paying attention. There's brown on her Tootsie. We'll fix that. We got to let it dry first. Never try to fix your mistakes right away because you're going to smear the paint even more. That's why I call it finish painting. And sometimes you got to go a little ways under the ceramic so that it's a cohesive look. Tip it upside down so you can get the bottom. This is a 360 paint job. You're not just painting the face or the front, the top, whatever. So you tip it up, move it around, flick, 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 just like that, because I got a really narrow area, so a brush stroke isn't going to actually work. Flick, flick, flick. And like I said, go over that design. We will, see, I'm doing a little bit of this color on the bottom. I might not use gray on the bottom. I think I might use this brown. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and do the bottom real quick. Even if you set it down, you still got a lot, but you want a really light coat. Don't go heavy when you do the bottoms of your ceramic. Make it a very light coat, very light. Because when you set it down, if you do a heavy coat and you set it down on like that, you're gonna glue it. If you use a heavy coat of paint, it will stick to your turntable every time. So make it a light coat. That way when you set it down, there's still paint on the bottom and you'll still get the look you want, but you're not going to be having to pry it off of the turntable with a butter knife, also called a table knife. See, the reason why I can tell you that, I've done it. I've also accidentally sealed my work to the turntable with clear coat. In fact, that happened with that Native American you saw. And when you do that, if you can use an X-Acto knife, box cutter, table knife, or butter knife, or whatever, credit card even, or a house key that you don't want anymore and you don't care if it breaks, something to get under that seal is what you're trying to do. Just like when you open a jar, you can put a knife under the edge of the lip of the jar and then push up and it'll break the seal, then you can take the lid off. It's the same it's the same technique. See, there's the difference. There's the design on that side. There's the design on that side. What we're gonna do is come back with another color and go in these designs. And I'll probably pick a, I like to do some metallics, so maybe I'll pick a light gold, or maybe not. Maybe I'll just pick a lighter tan or a peach color and keep in the flat of this. But it depends on what you like. So I'll make sure to do that on camera. I'll leave that till we can do it together. But just a little more paint and flick, flick, flick. Just make sure you get. It's like my sister when she first had her first daughter. Her first little girl. She was teaching me how to change the diaper. Because I didn't know. First baby I'd ever been around. And she said, when we were learning how to change the diaper and fill bottles and all that, she says it's easier to make sure it's clean in all the cracks and crevices. Talking about when you change the diaper. And when we're filling the bottles, she said it's easier to add more powder or milk or formula or whatever you're using. Even if you're cooking a recipe, it's easier to add something than take it away. This is the same principle. It's easier to add a little more paint, but don't go too heavy because it's harder to take away globs of paint that might ruin the look of the work. So you can go heavier on the paint, but don't like pour buckets on it or have big blobs on it. You want to smooth, make sure you flick instead of a stroke, because you don't want a ton of paint where you can't remove it. And then you're in a fix. All right, so that's all that done. That's all that done, see? So now we're going to switch paints. So put that paintbrush in the water because we're done with it, and realize you now don't know where you did with that cap. Although I think I found the other one I lost a second ago. See? And see how this one has the design on the top? That's where I got the idea for putting out the design on the tops of the lids. Just a second, please. Found it. And top of the lid, it's the correct one. I know I'm preaching. Putting that away over here because I'm done with it. Moving this one back in. And picking up the brush that we put down earlier and realizing I think I set my ceramic on it. Ain't that nice? Now this brush, we're going to clean it off because it's got the wrong color on it. There's times when you want that and times when you don't. Right now we don't. Going back in our lighter color, we're going to load the brush. Remember, we're loading it a little heavier. And now we're going to go tip it forward so we can get the back. Yes, I was going to use the smaller brush, but I want to show you what happens if you use a bigger brush. We're doing okay right here. All right, we're doing real good right there. Okay, right there, it's really good. Getting all the paint on, not really caring. We're just smearing it as we would in a bigger area. And I will show you why I don't recommend this technique. The brush also feels different when it's loaded with paint and when it's not. Try to go slow and feel the brush, and you can feel the vibration of the brush in your hand. It vibrates differently, and other than the sound, the feel of the brush is different when it's loaded with paint and when it's not. It glides more smoothly when it's loaded with paint versus when it's not. Okay, that should have, yep, that did it. What I was purposely trying to do, and I keep moving my turntable, look on the wing. See how all that's splattered? We're gonna have to let that dry and clean that up. And hope whatever color we use for the wings is not going to bleed through. Because some of the lighter colors, if you use a darker color and it does this, it might bleed through. Then we might have to get the paint off. That's why I said use the smaller brush. You don't want to have that kind of problem. Now, if we switch back to the smaller brush, load it up, and see, I've got a good amount of paint on there. And I go back in here, see how I can re-angle that? I'm not having to do this bit. I can re-angle it. I can get in there, and I didn't touch the top of the wings. That's why I said to use the smaller brush in the tighter areas. Now, you may come up with a technique that works better for you. That's great. Don't do something the way I do it just because I said to do it that way. If you find a technique that works much better for you and your situation, then use it. Life is all about living it and doing what you think is best for you. Do you. That's one of my mottos. You do you. This is what I prefer. And sometimes if I have extra paint on the top of the brush, like right there, I'll roll it on the work to get the extra paint off and then use that. And we're just gonna come in here and we're gonna do the light color. And like I said, off camera, I'm gonna do 2 coats of both colors. Generally, when you're doing a ceramic, as a standing rule, you want to do 2 coats, because if I just left, and I'll show you once I get done. Now see, I'm doing just one direction. See how I'm missing? Hold on, I gotta get a different grip. See how I'm missing spots if I just do the one direction? See how I've missed a whole bunch of stuff? That's why I said when you've got a grainy work like this, go with the grain because you're gonna miss stuff. And then it's gonna look unfinished and someone may not like it. They may not, if you're wanting to you're wanting to sell it, they may not purchase it because it looks like it's I had one of the drawings, one of my very first drawing that Maxine ever put on the wall. I did it because I wanted to show people what things look like to me. And if you get too much paint, load it back on your brush and just wipe it back on the bottle. Or a towel if you've got a second color and you don't want to contaminate your original bottle, then wipe it on a towel. That's why you've got one in your lap and one sitting next to you. Because look, I've got way too much paint there. See how it's built up and kind of gloppy? Gloppy's a good word. But I had, and it's a representation of how I see. And so it was I forget the word. It was an abstract piece of art. And someone came in to the gallery and they told Max that it looked like an 11-year-old had painted it. And I was kind of hurt. Because abstract art is just that. It's abstract. It does not look. And plus they didn't know the story behind it. Yes, it was a lot of circles, but if they would have let me explain, I would have told them that work isn't up there for sale. It's up there as a representation of how I see things. Because my friends in the art group had asked about how I was doing art when I was legally blind. And I found it very difficult to explain. Now see? Look at that. Let me point right there. I missed that. So I'm gonna have to go back with the other color and fix that. And I didn't notice it until I was yakking with you and I tipped up the work. But it wasn't up for sale. It was the first piece ever to be hung up on the wall for me. But it was just an explanation of my sight. In fact, one of my best friends, Sean McAdams, has it. I gave it to him and he really liked it. So he's got a couple of my paintings actually, and so does my friend Scott Latimer. I had two canvas, whether I had done an under the sea type of thing with dolphins, and it turned out looking, in my opinion, very childish. I didn't like it, and so I was going to paint over the canvas or pitch it, and he goes, nope, I'll take it. So next time I go up to Scott's, I will film that canvas and show you, or I'll try to remember. And just tip it up and fix it. And like I said, I got to do another coat, so the things that I'm already finding wrong, like right here, I need to redo that. Right here, see how the original color is coming through? This is why you do a second coat. But this will give you a general idea of what the chair is going to look like. See? And like I said, we're going to do two coats, so when we get back together, you'll see how it looks from there. There's the bottom. And that's the chair. And I've showed you, so you can do a second coat on your work if you're doing something like this. Now, if you want to add a touch of pizzazz and go over with a metallic color, wait till this work dries the second time and use the overlay technique I showed you in the other video. We'll detail it out too, so I will redo this coat, you know, after this, let it dry between coats. And I try to let it dry overnight. I have time on my hands, so for me that works best. And I think that, and especially in an unglazed, some of the glazes are baked in on certain pieces. Like, come here, Doobet. Come here, girl. Be a good dog. Oh, don't do that. But this one, I can't get the glaze off of. The glaze is baked in with her. So this is going to be a pain in the rumpus to paint. But I'm going to try to do her on camera too, so that you can see how you can use the original color in the paint job and still make it look good, because we are going to use the original white on her face. She's a geisha. Look it up. I had to. And we're also going to paint her, so you will see. I want you to see how to paint on the glaze if you can't get the glaze off. That's what she will be. So she's in a coming video. But, and sometimes you might want to do research, because like this, see, there's the dragon on the bottom, and she's a pretty little geisha girl. I had to do research because I want her to actually look like a geisha. And so that's how you do that. But let this dry overnight. We'll do the second coat, and then we'll come back together and we'll keep going on this. But I'll warn you, now these videos won't be back to back, because I'm trying to get a business running, so I have a lot to do. Even though I don't work right now and I'm on disability and stay home, I still try to pack my days pretty full, because the more I move my body and move around, because I have a muscle disorder called cerebral palsy, the more I'm going to be able to keep moving in the future. Now, if you're wondering what happened right here, I tripped. I was taking Archer out to the bathroom in a high grass area, and I got my foot caught, and he was off leash. So I was on my own, and I tripped and I fell. And I had blood down my face, on my clothes. I do have a knot right here. I've suffered a mild concussion. What we think, I didn't even notice, because I don't feel my feet as well. My left side is partially numb, so I didn't feel it when my left foot got caught. And I wasn't paying attention. Archer had found a bunny and was trying to make friends with it while it was hopping away as quick as it could. And I was amused, but I was also trying to get Archer to come back, quit playing around. Come on, let's hurry up and get back inside, because it was like 90-something degrees that day. And so I was trying to hurry, and I wasn't paying attention. I fell. And so that's another reason this video was a little late, was because I had to get through that. I've had a minor concussion before. It's no big deal. Don't worry about it. I'm good. I'm fine. But you have to pay attention, not just when you're doing ceramics, but little things in life that mean nothing to anyone else can trip you up, and you'll land on your face. Whatever that little thing is for you. And I'm not talking objects on the ground. You know that. I'm talking about a comment someone makes that you overhear. I've been there. I got so mad at my stepfather and my mom. I overheard part of a conversation as a teenager. I was about 12. And I overheard, 12, 13, I heard my stepfather say, well, we're never going to get rid of her. She's always going to be living with us. Talking about me. And I misinterpreted it. Give me a break, folks. I was 12, 13 years old. And I jumped to conclusions, and I didn't say anything. I was so angry I didn't talk about it. Until years later, after my stepfather had actually passed. And then I talked. I was still hurt. Years later, my feelings were still hurt. I was in my 30s. And Mom said, Tanya, you didn't listen to the rest of the conversation. And we talked about it. It was a little thing, that I had overheard part of a sentence, but it tripped me up. And I let it trip me up until I was in my 30s. It's the same principle. I wasn't watching where I was going with Archer, and I let myself get tripped up. In life, you can let yourself get tripped up by the littlest comment that someone says, and you can let it hurt you for so long. Don't do that. Don't let that have the power over you. If you get bullied, you choose how that person's words are going to affect you. For all those years, I chose to let that bit of a conversation affect my life. Until I didn't. I choose whether I care about what you say or not. And I choose how it takes root in my soul. So watch the little things. They'll trip you up. I hope you've had a good time painting with me, and we will continue her on, and the next project will be the Geisha Girl. Have a good day, and happy painting.